Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Crucial Conversations podcast. My goal on this platform is to empower others towards self-fulfillment. These are the conversations that you need to have to unlock your maximum potential. Whether you are feeling confused about your path in life, falling in love, starting a business, healing your inner child, moving to a foreign country, embarking on your spiritual journey, or building generational wealth, let's talk. The range of emotions and experiences that allow us to fully live our lives on Earth are beautiful and yet can be difficult to navigate. My goal is to create a safe space to talk about life, the good and the bad, in an effort to share wisdom, advice, and insight. I want to connect with you. I want to encourage you and empower you to live the life of your dreams, while reminding you that that does not always mean that you need to change your circumstances. Together, we will help each other level up and have the crucial conversations necessary to do so.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm super excited for this crucial conversation today. I have a lifelong friend here next to me for my first in-person recorded podcast episode, Miss Hannah Brown. Thank you for coming on the show.
Woohoo! Thank you for having me, Gabby. I am so happy to be here. Very excited. And I think that you and I really are just one of the same. I mean, blessed to, have this friendship with you. We basically grew up together in a certain sense. We're very much alike, our personalities, our background, our mindset. So I'm just really excited for this crucial conversation with you.
Yes. Amen, sister. Couldn't have said it better. So today my thought, I know we talked about this offline, but thought we're going to go into, all right, we graduated from college. We kind of went into corporate girly life, and then we did a little bit of our own businesses on the side. Yep. I know that for a while I had my own business, Learn to Swim program, ran that for about 3 years. And you have had your cleaning and organization business for a couple of years. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about navigating our 20s and all of the different facets that go into doing that, and just really have an open and engaging conversation. I know that we were also talking about how in my past episodes, I have really done more of an interview style. And so I'm hoping to have a really open and dynamic conversation today. So super excited to get into all of that. First and foremost, I was thinking that we could start out with our journeys from since we've graduated college to where we are at now. Okay.
Awesome. Well, I am a timeline girly, so thank you for that. Going into college, I went in as engineering, okay? I'm over here thinking, all right, architectural engineering, that's my end goal. I want to be an architect. Badass architect woman. I walked into my first day of classes at Oakland University in engineering. My professor was wearing khakis and sandals.
Classic engineering professor.
And he started, our lecture, first day of class, started our lecture and gets into a little bit of nitty gritty, what the class would look like for that semester. And I grabbed my stuff, I got up, and I left.
You for real?
I went right to the advising office, and I said, get me out of engineering. I don't know why I made this choice. So then I was actually undecided for a little bit, and then I went back to my original passion of teaching, and I was in a couple of classes for that and really understood the ins and outs of teaching, what that would look like, and just really put it into reality for me. And quite frankly, didn't think it would be for me. Once, figuring that out, I finally switched over to business. And really leading up to graduation, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Had no idea in the back of my head of what I wanted to do.
Dude, isn't that all of us though? I mean, like a business major at the end of the day, like
you can go anywhere.
Exactly. So there are two different reasons why people pick business majors, right? It's like, I know that I want a versatile degree that's going to be able to be applied in this field, this industry, whatever. Or I have absolutely no idea what I want to do, but I am going to college either A, because I feel I need a degree to succeed, or B, because my parents told me I need to. So I feel like there's two different types of business majors, and I was one of them. So it's like, I'm not shading any business majors, but totally understand that.
Not at all. And you're 100% right, Gabby. I mean, I was definitely that second option. And, all of you out there with that first option, go you. I will be rooting for you if you have that straight path. But that was not mine. But I had started, my business in 2021, May of 2021. And I was already, I think I was a sophomore by that time. So I had that, I knew that, I had that business entrepreneurial spirit, tongue twister. And so I think that kind of gave me a push of, okay, maybe I know what I want to do, but then again, I want to have that stability, and I want to have that, just more of a straight path,
Sure.
I guess, to go back to. And so once I graduated, it was a little bit of traveling that I actually ended up deciding on. And I'm very glad to this day that I did that. I am a go, go, go type of person, and seeing that I just finished however, consecutive semesters it was the best option for me at the time to do that.
And how long did you travel?
Traveled for 4 months to
So awesome.
6 or 7 different places, just in the United States. But
Cool.
I'm so glad that I did that. I got to visit family and friends. Once all that was done and I experienced and had those experiences.
Which is so important to have those experiences because
important.
for whatever reason we feel this pressure immediately upon graduation to like jump immediately into a corporate position or to start a business or to do this or to like make a bunch of money to save to whatever. There are so many different options, and I think that this topic of navigating your 20s really begins after you graduate from college, because at that
100%.
point, after graduating college, that is the first time, at least in my life, and it sounds to me like in your life, that our next step was not guaranteed. It was not laid out in front of us by someone else telling us, whether it's our parents or teachers or professors or whatever, that this is the next step. So after college, you have so many different options to consider versus in the past beforehand. Like, okay, high school, I know that I grew up and was always told that after high school, I was going to go to college. Sure. So I knew what that next step was up until I graduated from college. And then, like you said, you're like, all right, you're a go, go, go kind of person. So am I. So it's like, what's next? And so I'm so glad that you took a little bit of time to travel before you took a step back into whether that was, corporate life, more on your organization business, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but very, very important to recognize that as an option and give yourself a little bit of freedom to experiment. What is your next step? Like 4 months, great time for you to experience some more that you hadn't necessarily had the time or capacity to do. You were in a lot of consecutive semesters and everything like that. You jumped into it. You did it. It was fun. It was awesome. And then it led to where your next step was and where you are today.
You sum it up perfectly. Like you always word things so perfectly. But I think there is such a stigma to having that straight path. And sure, maybe I had that going into college, wanting to be that engineer. That is, obviously there's so many ways, to all you engineers out there, that you can go different routes with that. I've grown up around engineers, but been raised by engineers, but that there is such a straight path of a sense in that, or with teaching, or in the medical field. And I think that there is such a stigma to break with that. Even going right into college after high school, that's not everyone's plan. God bless my brother, going into the military. For all you military individuals out there, thank you for your sacrifice. There are so many different paths that we all take. There is not just one straight path. And to go back to what you were saying about putting that pressure on yourself right away to jump into something after putting all of your hard work and all your eggs in a basket at school or whatever, it is in the situation that you're in. But in that certain situation for me, it was, school. And I did put that pressure on myself for quite a while of, you do need to get something. And I was feeling that void of, interviewing over and over and over. I would have, 5 to 6 interviews a day. And
Oh my God.
Same things from everyone. Oh, you're not the right fit at this time. Oh, you're not the right fit at this time, because I didn't have the internships. I didn't have, the right quote unquote work,
up until this point, like you had started Simple Living, right? So basically, Hannah, introduce what Simple Living by Hannah is.
So Simple Living by Hannah is a commercial residential organization, decor and design.
Heck yeah, it is, baby.
Service business owned by me. Like I had mentioned a few minutes ago, I started it in May of 2021. So while I was in college, I had started that. And to many, it doesn't really speak volumes, I guess. People, and we can maybe talk about this a little bit more in depth, but people, and by people I mean companies, they look for companies. They look for, who have you worked for? What have you done? Okay, I want you. They like the entrepreneurial mindset. They like the go-getters. But when it comes down to, I didn't really see that in the interview process.
And honestly, that is because a lot of 95% of companies out there are just looking for another sheep that they can herd into the pack and fulfill these simple tasks that anybody truly can do, regardless of a degree. Like, here is a list of responsibilities, and are you timely and responsible enough to fulfill what I'm asking you to?
100%.
Great. I don't need someone who is going to reinvent the wheel. I don't need someone who's going to revolutionize this company. Like, that's not necessarily what people are looking for. However, if you get connected to the right people and you're interviewing with the right type of companies, companies for the right positions. And I mean, by the grace of God, that's how I ended up in my first position, right? Like I was connected to some amazing people, but those types of companies and people that you're interviewing with that recognize that entrepreneurial spirit in you and can see how that may actually benefit their business, especially depending on the position that you're in, they're going to like all over you like vultures. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
But you're so right that 95% of the time people aren't looking for that. And for whatever reason, I feel like you're right in saying that it's not taken as seriously, which is to me so unfathomable. Like at least I know for myself, when I was interviewing people, you know, at my last position, I was asking equally the same amount of personality questions that revolved around, okay, what do you like to do for fun? What are your passions? Where's your drive lie? Like, give me an example of X, Y, and Z, you know, just as much as your experiential questions. Because for me, that kind of thing speaks volumes. Would you rather have someone who has that creative and like that spirit within them to not only make something great, but also have the spirit and the joy along with them while they're doing it? Or do you want someone that you can tell what to do and they're going to do what you ask, but they're not going to add their own little spice to it or anything that's going to vamp up the process? There's two different types of companies and they're looking for two different things. However, I totally agree that not a lot of people are going to recognize that and appreciate it, which to me is mind-boggling, but anyhow.
Absolutely. No, I very much agree with you.
I don't get it.
I don't either. I don't know why that is a thing out there, but it is, unfortunately. And I think you and I, again, are very much alike in the sense that we do go after our personality and what we can give. It's not always your experience. I think it's sure you can go through experiences, but you know, when it comes down to, it's not always, you know, what you bring to the table in terms of work, you know, work experience. What can you really do, you know, in terms of personality, with that drive, with that, you know, just enthusiasm about what you're doing? Because like you said, a sheep can, you know, work at a, you know, A, B, and C company and, you know, just follow the crowd. But are they really going to be doing anything above and beyond to help out the company a little bit more and improve? I mean, I feel like companies should want that improvement, not just want the, you know, the straight line of
the person with the perfect resume.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So I think the interviews, they were, you know, a great learning experience for me. I was learning how to interview. With each interview I became a little bit better and I loved that. But, you know, nothing was, you know, hitting. And I think that there's a reason for that. You know, amidst my traveling, I was finally given an interview by a company that a family member of mine has been with for many, many, many years, over 25 years. And that is the, you know, they had given me the offer, and that is where I ended up being for just a few short months. I loved the experience that I did gain there. The people, the relationships that I created there, again, unforgettable. What made me even want to get into that position with having my business, quote unquote, on the side was the stability and the benefits that came along with it. Really, at the end of the day, that is what I was striving for. And obviously the experience too, wanting to put my degree to use. For some reason in my mind, it was, you know, get this corporate America full-time job so that your degree doesn't go to waste. Well,
and there's more to your college experience than just the piece of paper that is your degree. Like, you learned so much emotionally, physically, like mentally, all of the things. Like those 4 years that, or technically it was like, what, 3, because we zoomed through it, had a weird experience, whatever.
To say the least.
To say the least, yeah. But no, I mean, there's so much more than that you learned during that time in your life that put you in a position that you know, were able to make these decisions and make these calls for yourself, more so than the classes you took or the professors that you had or the content that you were fed and that you learned. You know, for me, I say quote unlearned, because I feel like the majority of the things that I have learned have been comprised of the experiences that I have had in my life. And when I say experiences, I am really relating more so to like my business. Anything that I've learned business has really been from me being on the front lines. It wasn't from being in a classroom setting. You know what I'm saying? But I learned more about myself in college than I had at any other time in my life. That's when my spiritual journey began to flourish and everything like that. So much more than just the piece of paper. But anyhow, obviously, in order to be successful in anything, you have to build expertise.
Sure.
And building expertise takes a lot of time.
It does.
And so regardless of what you're doing, if you want to be successful, you have to build your track record, you have to build credibility, you have to build your brand. And that is all, like I said, going to take time. However, I know that, we've kind of briefly talked about it, but you were in a position where it was probably like, if I'm going to spend this much time and energy doing something, why would I not do it for something that I am passionate about?
Yeah.
And you're your own boss. There's a bunch of other benefits. And do you have the stability of the benefits and the guaranteed income and all of these things yet? No, maybe not. However, in the long run, just like we talked about, anything that you want to be successful at will take time and will take time to cultivate that expertise. So why not do it in something that you're really passionate about, which is exactly where I'm at. So it's completely understandable, right? It's not that you're an impatient person and that you're not willing to put in the work, but you got to a point where it was like, what am I investing into? And if I'm going to make this investment, it better, pay me dividends, basically. Like,
fulfill me.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think too, now that, I'm talking about it all, what was I creating all along since May of 21 in the background, quote unquote,
right,
was this business.
Yeah.
And I had put the time into it, and I had created that track record, and I had created a clientele,
Absolutely.
And that was just one of my things, because I was also a college student, and I was also, whatever else I was doing in the time there. I, worked at, Buddy's Pizza, and I was, a nanny, a baby, whatever. But in the background, I was working on that business, and I had that time to do so.
Yep.
But then when it came down to, it felt like, oh, I'm just, a corporate, recruiter, and, and I had this small business, and it was like, okay, these are my two things. Where's my passion? Where do I want to put my time into? And that's why I decided, it's this business. That's where my passion lies.
And honestly, that's usually how it goes. Like at the end of the day, you come to a point where you have to make a decision. Where are you going to invest your time and energy? And in the beginning, just like I did when I started, my podcast and my coaching business, like I was doing that while juggling this full-time job that my heart was in and I love so much. And am very sad. It's a bittersweet feeling to be leaving. However, I do feel like that's how all small business owners kind of get to, I don't want to say all, make that generalization, but many get to that point, is after juggling so many things for so long, you grow your side hustle to your full-time job. And even if it's not going to be a full-time job that provides you with that guaranteed income on a week-to-week basis, there does come that leap of faith that you have to take in order to allow the opportunity to really let that grow, because juggling, you can only do it for so long. You can only divide and conquer for so often, and so it gets to that point where you have to make that decision. And so to me, it just seems like you made it sooner rather than later. No,
absolutely.
Like no shame in that game,
Absolutely, for sure. And there was, a part of me that just said, hey, give this a little bit more time. Give it a year. But there was also, that just inner passion inside me that just needed to go back with what I was creating in the, background for, those 2 years there. So that is what I ended up doing.
So now you're doing it full time.
Now I'm doing it full time.
And now you're really getting into it. Like we were just talking about, at a local coffee and bagel shop, you've got your advertisements
running
out
my
there
ads.
as you have to, hey, little shameless plug for my business right now, because I feel like in the past you kind of did that, but now you're like, okay, this is serious. Like I'm going, I'm all in. And like, that's the point where I'm about to be at right now. I have a different experience that I'm about to embark on, one that is a little bit more of like a spiritual growth type of journey for me, which I'm super excited about. And also to just cultivate some skills that I have been interested in acquiring for quite some time, tending to the land, the animals, and all of that fun stuff. But I will be so removed from the matrix to the point where I'm going to have so much time to get back to me, who I truly am, and my unique divine purpose, and how I can apply that and truly you reap what you sow, invest in that time and all the energy into my goals and really define what those are and everything like that, because I am taking the time to truly go all in on me and my path. And I don't want to say that in a selfish way, but truly getting to know myself and my goals in a way that's going to open up these doors for me that probably wouldn't have opened up otherwise if I was diverting my attention and my energy through so many different outlets and juggling a 9-to-5 and juggling a side hustle and juggling a podcast and juggling relationships and yada, 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 yada. Like there's so much, it's crazy. But we all have to go through some of that like tough in the weeds to get out of the weeds and watch the flowers bloom, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like that's the phase you're in right now. So you're all in it, which is super exciting.
Absolutely.
And are you excited? Are you happy?
I'm excited. There is a lot still to learn. And I think it takes, to what you were just saying, it takes a very special person to hone in on, what they need mentally, physically, spiritually, especially in this next journey that you have, this next big step. Because you can juggle so much, but then you finally just have to, say, all right, what do I want to give my time to? What do I want to give my energy to? What do I want to give my passion to? And, you just got to go for it. Lean into the uncomfortable. I mean, like we were just, talking about before this, there's so much beauty in the unknown, and you just have to, take that leap of faith and use God's grace as your strength and your backbone and just go for it, sister.
100%.
That's what you got to do.
And there's so much, there is faith in that. And there is privilege in the fact that I have the opportunity to leave a corporate job that is supplying me with guaranteed income and benefits and opportunity, like for those kinds of things. Some people are in positions where they are working a job that they may not be super passionate about, but it pays the bills, it provides for their family, et cetera, et cetera. I am blessed. I know that you are blessed. We count our blessings every single day. And the last thing that I want to do is make it seem like everybody has the same pathway. It's an opportunity for everyone to just quit your job and start a business. You know what I'm saying? It's not realistic for everyone. Yeah. And, I feel very thankful that we're in a position to be able to even consider that an option. But I do think that, we are here for that unique divine purpose. And so I have to thank God for that, but I can't help but feel like this is exactly what was meant to happen for the both of us. We had no choice what bodies or what vessels our souls decided to take on when they came down here. Maybe before the slate was wiped clean, we had a choice and we talked to God about it. And we were like, hey, we want that one. We want that one. You know what I'm saying? We want that family. Who knows? But at the end of the day, I could have been born into anybody else's body in any other country, in any other, class structure, whatever. So I have to believe that there is some sort of divine purpose in us being born into the beings that we are today, just as I believe the same for strangers and friends and companions and everything like that. There is divine purpose in all of our existences. And so I just am thankful that we have this one right now. And even for the other people who may not be able to jump out of a corporate job or start a business or go and travel or do a work exchange for X amount of months because they've got family, they got bills to pay, whatever. Yeah. Just as we are blessed, they are blessed in different ways, but must recognize that, hey, this is my God-given journey. And this is what I have to work with at the moment, believing that is for a reason. And I feel like that empowerment, that is the most important part to what we're experiencing right now, is that things are aligning and happening for a reason. God bless. Everyone is in that same boat, knowing that things are happening for a reason. If you have faith and things like that, and you believe in the greater journey and, divine guidance and everything like that. And every one of those paths, like we talked about earlier, full circle is going to look different, but absolutely, we are in a very blessed position right now. And so I guess the next thing that I kind of want to talk about is, where you're at right now, and what are some of maybe the fears that you have after leaving that job, and you're all in it now. And so what's kind of going through your head, because that's a big step, and I'm so proud of you, but there's upside to it, and there's some, weeds that you got to work through. Right. Yeah. So I'm just curious to see what your mental state of being is after making that decision. Yeah, no, absolutely. Great question. I often ask myself the and if
same
you don't
thing.
Have a curated answer right now, don't worry about it. I'm just honestly off the rip want you to be hey, I don't know, maybe
you know what? I think I leaned into it so quick that I don't think I've mentally come to with those tough answers to those questions yet. But what I do know is I I leaned into that uncomfortable and I just went full fledged. I mean, I quit one day. The next day I was contacting the people that I need to contact to, get that LLC and make it official and not just make this a side hustle anymore and make this, a legit thing, a full-time thing. And just like you were saying, Gabby, it really does come down to my environment and what I'm surrounded with and all the blessings. I mean, gosh, now thinking about that, I don't think I'd be able to do it without, the situation that I'm in with my parents and how much they've done for me and given me and just where we live and who we are and, the situation I get, again, that we are given and at hand. People that I'm surrounded with, God, I mean, all glory be to God.
Right.
Like, amen.
Amen.
But for me, it was like, I think that I need that just unknown for a little bit. And I think that we are in such an age to do that, to figure it out. I mean, I don't have kids yet. I'm not married yet. I don't have a, mortgage to pay for. So I think that there is so much beauty in right now. Yeah. And like we have been saying, our situational blessings around us, there's so much beauty in create it while you can with maybe not having as much stability so that you can get to that stability and then everything else will follow.
Okay. So I'm about to leave this job and I will be heading to Costa Rica the 22nd, of January. So that's coming up quick, which is crazy. So and this is kind of the first time in my life where I have my next step figured out, but I don't have step 2, 3, and 4 figured out, which previously I have always been that person. Just like you. And again, we're very similar. We always are go, go, go. We're achievers at our core. When I actually accepted my most recent position, we had to take this personality assessment that was like a strengths assessment, basically. So it ranks your top 5 strengths out of like 34 through an organization called Clifton Strength Finders. Love it so much. And awesome. My boss's wife actually started the company Strength Advisors, and we did some workshops about what our strengths are and how to best apply your strengths to work through challenges and celebrate successes of yourself and your team members and everything like that. So cool. I
love those. That's awesome.
Oh my God, you should take it. And I don't know if this is going to be 100% accurate, but if I could guess, I would say that your number 1 would be the same as my number 1, which is achiever. Achiever.
I can guess it too. Yes.
In my core, right? Yeah. Like up until this point, I have always been working towards goals that are helping me to get to step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, et cetera, right? Sure. So I, for the first time, have my next step figured out, but not the steps after I move out there. You know what I'm saying? And so I guess for me, what I am a little bit nervous about is, like you said, that stability. And when I talk about stability, I personally am talking about financial stability as well. I have been very blessed to be able to save a lot of money because I have been able to live with my parents. God bless their souls. Yeah. So I am in a position right now where I've got a little bit of leeway, got a little bit of freedom. I don't have a mortgage payment. Great. I've got car insurance. We've got a phone, got whatever, groceries, gas. But other than that, I'm not raising a family. I'm not doing these things. And so that financial stability is definitely on my mind. I think that there are different types of fears, right? Like there's fear of failure, and then there's fear of the unknown, and then there's fear of success. And I feel like all different people have different types of fear. Mine has always really been fear of failure, I think. And so going into something full-fledged like you are right now, I know that for me, after this Costa Rica thing, I'm going to be working on my, skills that I told you I want to acquire a little bit, but I really am going to be focusing on my podcast and my coaching business. And in the back of my mind, I know, like at the bottom of my heart, I know I'm going to succeed, because for me, I just genuinely believe there's no other option. Like I really do. However, there is still that voice in the back of your head that's like, you'll never be this successful. You're never going to, do this, whatever. But at my core, I do believe that all of my dreams are possible. But I do think that that's been, my biggest struggle in my entire life is like, okay, I can walk the walk and I can talk the talk, but for how long? Like, is this going to pay off? Is this going to eventually lead to this stability? And to come full circle once again, it's just the fact that expertise takes time.
It does.
And my dad, I remember when I first started this podcast, he was like, listen, if you're still doing this 5 years from now, I have no doubt in my mind that you are going to be successful. I believe the same thing for you and your business. And you started in 21. And now guess what? You're taking steps. You filed for an LLC, which we'll talk a little bit about. But you're moving, you're plugging and chugging, and you're doing great. But imagine if you would have started and did it for a year and been like, all right, well, I'm moving on.
Sure.
Probably wouldn't have gotten you anywhere. But now you've been doing it for quite some time. You, again, are building your brand. You are probably so much more confident now calling a client or starting a project or giving even someone a quote than you were the first 1, 2, 3 times you did it, right?
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely.
Like, is that valid?
100%. I mean, I never had consultations when I was first starting off. I'd just walk across the street to my neighbor and be like, all right, let's get down to it. Let's organize these clothes. I mean, now I have all the proper steps put into place, a website, an intake form, an after project form. I mean,
so cool.
I've learned so much then, from coming from, just starting it, like I said, walking across the street to where I'm at now. And I mean, there is a lot of, fear and question in the back of my head of, hey, is this going to work out? Am I going to, have, X number of clients at the end of the day that I need to, fulfill myself and sustain myself. But, you got to quiet that voice in your head sometimes that, says that you can't do something.
Right.
I've, always done that. I think that that's part of the reason why I have this business.
Yep.
Because there is, obviously the reality you need to face in that. But then again, there's, like I said, that voice that, that you just need to quiet down a little bit. And, each day is such, a blessing in the sense that, you learn something new every day. I mean, like I said, starting from, not even having a consultation or quote to now, setting up that consultation time and
so cool.
Setting up, finances and, okay, am I going to go out and shop for you or what's your budget here? What's your time here? And, I never had that. But now,
because you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know. And
you got to do it.
I had to go through each client, each project, each, specific closet or bedroom or dining room and, learn, about each one, about each client, because I mean, I think in any job that you have, you're dealing with people at the end of the day, and people are inconsistent. They're a game, and you got to know how to level with them. And no matter what industry you're in, and no matter what job you're in, title you're in, you gotta learn them. And I think that there's fun in that, but there's also, some hardship in that, in figuring that out. So.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, and I think too that the expert at anything was once a beginner. Like I come back to that statement so often. And I think a big fear for a lot of other people and, has never been something that I have personally struggled with, because I've always been like all right, just start, do it now type of person. Like I don't have to have everything figured out. I mean, we were just kind of like laughing about the fact in my last episode, I talked about how my studio is my little brother's old room. Yeah. Now we've upgraded into the dining room for my first in-person recording experience, which I have successfully figured out this audio setup. We had a little bit of technical difficulties.
Let me tell you though, guys, this girl, when she had texted me wanting to do this, she's like, all right, I gotta figure this out. I'm gonna get the audio. I promise we're gonna do this. And here we are now, long time coming.
Oh,
but
thank God.
I am so glad that we are here and you did it and you saw it through, and here we are.
Yes, exactly. But when I first started this, I was recording voice memos on my phone. Yeah. Do you remember when we literally sat in that coffee shop? And funny story, Hannah and I recorded a podcast like a year, maybe even more than a year ago, in the parking lot of a Big B near where we live. And it was a great conversation, but it was funny because we were having, it was off the rip. Like we were dropping names left and right. And Hannah texted me.
I'm like, we can't put this out anywhere.
She was like, I am actually going to need you to delete this from the cloud. But
look how far we've come. Look how much you learned from that.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. So the beginner or the expert was once a beginner in everything. And if I am relating this to what I'm doing, so podcasting, right? I wasn't going to wait until I had the latest and greatest setup. And, okay, I've got to have a studio with soundproof walls and awesome $800 microphones and an audio interface and a, great camera to record with. Like, I wasn't going to wait until I had those things to start. I started with what I had, and then I slowly learn what I need to improve the quality of my audio, of my video, of the guest experience, of everything like that. And so just like with Simple Living, you didn't know that you may have needed an intake form or that you were going to have to send out invoices to people until you've done it a couple times. And then guess what? You learn, and it's exactly the same way. I remember I had guests on this show, or I was just making episodes and they were just off the rip, which are awesome. I still do sometimes, but now it's like, normally if I have guests on the podcast, they'll fill out a questionnaire. We'll create an outline. We'll talk about audio, video, recording quality, everything like that beforehand. And you don't know what you don't know, And so I think the hardest part for a lot of people is just starting.
Yeah.
It's just starting, because you feel like you have to have everything figured out, like you have to be perfect to begin. But I mean, I even know this, like, I haven't even had this podcast out for a year. It's been roughly 6 months. Okay. I've released, I don't know, this will be the 15th episode. And I know that in a year, I'm going to look back at these episodes and being like, why in the hell did I release that? Because, and maybe not, who knows, right? Because it's a journey. It's fun to watch, but I'm going to look back and I'm going to be like, God, that audio is absolute trash. Or God, you're really talking, you're going off on 8 tangents in an episode. But had I not done this, recorded these episodes, I wouldn't have had something to look back on that reflected not only my progress, but also the learning curve. It's not something that you're going to jump in and you're going to be an expert at the first episode that you record, or the first house that you clean, or the first room that you organize. Like, you have to go through the struggle so that you can learn and build your own brand, because you can learn from other people, and there's so much beauty in that. We've got a million outlets and resources that we have at our fingertips nowadays, where you can learn. But to me, there is nothing more saturated with knowledge than the experience of oneself.
Absolutely.
Like, going into
amen.
something and just trying it.
Yeah.
Like, for example, this past summer, I joined a sailing crew at Bayview, and oh my God, so much fun. Like, literally my favorite thing in the world. I haven't been so passionate about something in a very, very long time. But I went into it, and I had the first taste of sailing that I had was with Lauren when we sailed from Fort Myers to the Tortugas to Key West. First time on a sailboat, over 200 nautical miles, like, just an absolutely life-changing experience. But because I did it, I felt like I kind of knew what was going on. And then I learned a lot more as I was actually crewing on the boat this summer. If I read books, or if I even watch videos and I take notes in lecture style format, anything that pertains to sailing, it's in one ear out the other. It's great to have that foundation and like recognize terms that appear later on after having watched a video or read a book. But like, for me, I need to be hands-on. And I feel like that's life. It's business, it's life, it's passion, it's hobbies, it's relationships. Like, we need experience. And so I guess for me, like, my piece of advice to anyone who is thinking about starting is that you're not going to be an expert when you first start, but you have to begin as a beginner to become an expert.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And I know that your business is the exact same
100%.
way.
Yep. And I'm, can't even say that I'm even at that expert level yet,
And neither am I. Absolutely.
And I think that, but again, there's so much beauty in that. That's where you're learning, day in and day out.
I don't want to be an expert yet. It's boring.
You have to mentally fulfill yourself and mentally fulfill, your passion and where your passion lies. And, you can learn and learn and learn and learn, but what you're learning, is it making you happy? And if it's not making you happy, I think that you should reconsider. I don't really know what I'm saying anymore, so we'll just cut all this out.
I always get into that.
I had it in my head, and now it's coming out.
Sometimes when I talk out loud, I'm like, first of all, where was I going with this?
Second
of all, how am I going to end this in a concise thought that sounds like I actually know what I'm talking about? Like, oh my God. I remember when I recorded an episode with, it was the therapist that I had, and when we were talking about art therapy, and God, I was just in such a bad...
Aww.
I had so much brain fog, and honestly, that's a big reason why I started 75 Hard. So I'm doing 75 Hard right now, which essentially is, okay, you do 2 workouts a day, you drink a gallon of water, you stick to a diet, which for me is, okay, whole foods, no refined sugar, and then you read 10 pages of a, inspirational book every day, okay? Like, biggest reason that I started that, and no alcohol. Good riddance. The biggest reason that I
Cheers.
started that was because I was experiencing so much brain fog.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily know why. I don't know if it was a lack of consistency in the gym, if it was not fueling my body with the best foods, if it was not nourishing my brain with enough content. I don't know exactly what it was. However, I remember I was recording that episode and I had so much brain fog. It was like I didn't sound like I had any clarity. I didn't have an articulation of my thoughts into words, which usually, you know, I pride myself in being sharp and being able to put my thoughts into
you word
words.
things very well. Yeah.
But I was struggling so hard during that episode. And I remember I would start talking and I would go off on a tangent. And I would be like, what the hell are
Why
you
did I just
even
say that?
talking about? Like, I mean, I was like, is my guest even going to understand my questions? Because I don't even understand my questions. And this woman did an amazing job. I mean, she was so intelligent of being able to like rewire the questions that I asked, which were relatively unrecognizable, and answer them in a way that was eloquent and whatnot.
But what did you do? You reevaluated yourself.
Exactly.
You said, what is going on up
Right.
here? How can I reassess this?
Right.
What can I do to feel better again? And I definitely just experienced that not even a minute ago, so I apologize for that.
Oh, girl.
But
Don't apologize.
You reassessed yourself and
Yeah.
you know and where you were at mentally. And I think too, we have so many freaking thoughts running through our head daily and by minute and you know, listening to you were just so intelligent beyond your years, and I'm just over here like, all right, what can I say next, you know, like
No.
and then you just kind of get lost in your thoughts. You know
that's
what
the
I mean?
best. That's the
And
flow state.
It is.
Yeah.
It
And
really
I mean,
is.
honestly, Hannah, the reason that I do love our friendship and love our dynamic is because you are so intelligent beyond your years. And like I look up to you in so many ways, and you are very, very inspiring in a way that you don't have to try to be. Like your presence speaks for itself. Your thoughts and your actions speak for themselves. Like you don't have to come out and be like, oh, I have to sound super like perfect. And I know that you're not always trying to, but, and we can always fall into those patterns of like, oh, I don't sound good
Sure,
enough, or like
sure.
whatever, or, oh, I need to be better. But like,
Yeah.
honestly, just being raw and like being who you are is all that I want in this episode, because that is where I feel like your light shines brightest. It's when
Yeah.
you're just on like authentically, all right, you're Miss Hannah Brown, like you're doing your thing, you know, we're just talking, we're shooting it, whatever. One of the other things that I do actually want to talk about, and we don't have to go super into the logistics, but I do want to talk a little bit about your LLC, but I want to hear a little bit about your journey in that, who you sought help out from, you know, what does that look like?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a great question. It came to the point of, all right, how can I make this legit? How can I make this real? You have to have some sort of realness to it, and credibility, and I needed that. Thank you for my business, for myself. Actually, am blessed by wonderful neighbors, literally a few houses over, who are in, you know, the tax attorney, lawyer workplace field, who I contacted, and I went over there one night, and we sat down for about an hour, and they just, you know, told me how I can go about it, you know, filing for an LLC, creating an LLC, what it looks like in terms of, you know, finances and how you need to record. Oh my God, so much tracking. It's amazing, but a lot of tracking. Excel spreadsheets are my saving grace. It just came down to all the legalities of it, and just wanting to make it an official thing. I also filed for an implied name, so you don't always need to use LLC.
Okay.
You can use just
Simple Living by Hannah.
Simple Living
Period.
by Hannah, or Swimming with Gabby, or whatever.
Because that would be a DBA. What do you do now differently?
Yeah. So with an LLC, what has changed? Obviously, I am legal with the state, so you know, everything that I was previously making is now, you know, by the state. Legal, you know, it's okay to be making what I'm making, but really it comes down to taxes and how everything is filed, and when it comes to it personally, like on a daily basis, what has changed is all the record keeping. I mean, I am tracking my mileage. I am tracking every single cent that I make,
Because
to
you're
the
going to be
project.
able to write that stuff off, Queen.
Yep. So I am tracking every single expense. So if I need to go out and I need to buy you know, tape for, you know, whatever, to box up some boxes to help someone
Oh my God,
move.
that's amazing.
I can expense that,
Nice.
but I'm tracking it all.
Nice,
I
absolutely.
sent flowers to a client that I had a 2-day project with. I can,
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
write that off as an expense. And then so what happens is when you know, your tax time comes around, which I don't know much about, so
I don't either.
you know, it can all,
But you've got all the information.
it's all tracked, and kept and, by date, by, whatever, to the cent. Like I said, to the cent.
Yeah.
Everything is tracked to the cent. So that really is the main thing that's changed.
Do you have a business bank account?
I do. That was the other thing. Yeah. So I also took it. Thank you for reminding me.
Because that's that you have to have a business bank account.
Once you have an LLC is when you can take your EIN or your any ID number that you are given and take it to the bank and say, all right, I want to open a bank account, whether it be credit, debit. I did both. So I have what I use for, shopping expenses when I'm out for clients. I'll use, credit. And then, once, they pay me, I can, just pay off, the credit. So that is another huge thing that I was given advice from my neighbors who had helped me, create this LLC, was get to the bank right away and, create your, an account so that, you need to keep everything personal and business.
Yes.
That was their biggest thing, was you need to keep it so separate.
Absolutely.
So that everything can be tracked correctly.
So it's LLC, EIN, bank account, track everything, file taxes eventually.
Yep, exactly. You got it. Good job. And it's amazing, having an LLC, because everything is legal. You feel legit. You don't feel like, oh,
you're doing anything a little shady.
I'm getting this money and it's a little bit shady, especially when I had those big projects before the LLC. I'm like, oh my God, like these are some big bucks, and I don't feel legit taking this, but now,
which knowing that you are though, right?
Yeah. For sure. No, absolutely. So now, I don't have that. And there is so much, so much to learn, but it just feels good at the end of the day to say that that is something that I've worked for. Yes. That is something that I have. There are some fees, with it.
Yep.
I know that it varies. But to file an LLC is one thing. And then, like I said, that assumed name or implied name, that is another fee. So for anyone out there looking, I know you said that you're interested in that. So, just some little basics, but I think it also too is different by each LLC, right? Because there's different industries. So you aren't going to track your mileage. You're going to track your, Wi-Fi and your, computer, battery, whatever. Literally, you can track everything. I was told that you can track every little thing that you use. I can track my internet, my phone, for calls I make to clients, for, anything. So it's great. But you got to track it all.
Oh,
you
yeah,
gotta
100%.
Track it all.
That's the biggest thing. And you know what? It teaches you so much. Yeah. God, if everybody could be as conscious as a small business owner about their expenses, their investments, their time, their energy, how much they are in the car, how much they are on the phone. Like, dude, this world would be running like a freaking well-oiled machine. And you know what's funny? In total tangent, but ever since I've been in the business world, I recognize the importance of, to a certain degree, treating everything like you would a business. For example, prime example, what for me does not get scheduled does not happen. So for me, it's like I live by my calendar nowadays. And if something, I sent you a calendar invite for this podcast because I literally am like, this has got to be on my agenda. Like I know when I am going to do this and it's on my agenda. So like what doesn't get scheduled doesn't happen. And, even for example, like at Goldfish, we'll do front desk notes and people will initial when they do a walkthrough or when they restock the coffee machine or when they do this or when they do that. Awesome. Fantastic. Recently, unbeknownst to me, feeding the fish has now become my responsibility. It previously was my mom's. She just had a surgery. Totally fine. I'm happy to take that on, but I just kind of fell into my lap one day and I was like, all right, I'm doing it. And there were days where it was like, oh shoot, like did I feed the fish or did someone else feed the fish? Whatever. So I'm like, what would I do if I was in school right now? If I didn't know if the coffee machine was restocked and I didn't want to piece apart the, door and go get the beans and check all the whatever compartments and see if it was done or not and waste that time, we keep a log or we'll initial if we do it. So
it's huge.
So then it's like, all right, now down there I have a log. You put your date, time, and your initials. That's and awesome. If anybody else wants to feed the fish, come feed the fish and initial that you did it. Initial so that I don't have to do it,
You better initial it.
Literally. But like, I don't know, treating everything in your life to a certain degree like a business helps you to keep inventory, even in your relationships too. Like, I know that I have listened to many podcasts of many successful people. And when I say successful, I don't just mean financial or professional success. I mean, in terms of relationships and emotional stability and everything like that. Yeah. But like, for longer term relationships, scheduling time in for your significant other is so unbelievably important. And having that routine sectioned off time, for example, okay, every Thursday night you guys do carry out in a movie, every, whatever,
or
Monday,
even like weekly, monthly, yearly, like
exactly.
Weekly, let's have a date night. Monthly, let's have a weekend getaway. Yearly, let's have a week-long trip. Like it is huge. It gives you something to look forward to. It gives you, a purpose for your relationship among many other, purposes that you have in a relationship. 100%. But I think that record keeping of any kind, whether it be calendar, anything for yourself, your relationship. I know I have a self-care day weekly. It is the day that I look forward to most. Yes. It is the day that I love. Yes. I think that everyone should give themselves at least 1 or 2 days a week like that. I think that, record keeping of any sort is amazing.
Oh yeah.
Business, personal, keep it separate, but do it. It's very important.
But no, that's very interesting about the very adamant advice from your neighbor to keep everything personal separate from business, which of course but when you actually get into the legalities of it, how essential it is to your ability to actually do things by the book and do them to your advantage. Like you said, keeping track of everything, and you bought those flowers for a client. Okay, great. You're using your business bank account so that you can eventually turn that in and whatnot, which I think is so interesting. And there are so many benefits to forming an LLC that I am just now starting to learn about. And I know that in 2024, they are cracking down a little bit.
Yes. Be legal, be strict with how you track, but also don't, get ahead of yourself. I tend to do that, not just in my business and in my personal life too, but don't get ahead of yourself and thinking that everything does need to be perfect, because you're going to end up messing up. You're going to end up failing,
and it's fine,
mentally, spiritually, physically, by the books, whatever the case may be.
You're gonna make mistakes.
You're gonna make mistakes if you're too perfect or not perfect at all. So just breathe, take it one thing at a time, and just know that it will be tracked, it will be recorded, and it's not gonna be the end of the world, right?
Because it can be a little bit daunting, it can be, to do all of the filing. And even if it's just all right, you got to pay these state fees up front, should I do it? Is this worth it? I don't know. There's so much that I'm gonna have to do when tax season comes around or whatever. But realistically, it's just one step at a time. You're not gonna be perfect the first time you do it. Eventually you're gonna learn. It's gonna become routine, just like anything else, so it's very interesting to watch all of this unfold. And honestly, I'm so excited for you and the future of Simple Living by Hannah, and all the things that you're going to do, all of your future endeavors. And I don't want to place so much emphasis on your business's success, because if you were to never organize another home again, I would not think of you any less than or any more of than I think of you right now, because I literally said before, it is just you and the essence of Hannah B that is the reason that you are great and that you are successful. And sometimes I know for me as an achiever, I need to remember that just being you is enough. Just being me is enough. It doesn't matter how many podcast episodes I release. It doesn't matter how many coaching clients I have. It doesn't matter how many retreats I host. It doesn't matter. It is more about the effect that you, an impression, the impact that you leave on people. People are going to remember that. They're not going to remember how many,
clients you had.
Exactly.
Or trips you took or whatever.
And I have to remember that, because I know that I can sometimes get into that when I get into my achiever, whatnot. But I really am. I'm so excited for your future in this. And I'm very thankful that you shared everything today. Dude, I am so glad that we did this. I'm so glad that I didn't have the technical difficulties win over our ability to record this episode today. I'm so thankful that you came in person, and I'm excited for many more. Before I leave for Costa Rica, I want to sit down and I want to have more conversations. Now that I know this setup, I'm feeling good. It's fun. I love it. But thank you so much, Hannah, for coming on.
Thank you, Gabby.
And I will go ahead and link all of Hannah's information in the episode description. I will leave some info for her website so you guys can all check that out, her Instagram. And then, Hannah, if there's any other resources that you want to plug right now, if there is any other way that you would like anyone to connect with you, personal or professional, please go ahead, drop your shameless plug now.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on any social media platform. Actually, not any now that I said that, just Instagram and Facebook. Simple Living by Hannah. Pretty easy, pretty straightforward, no LLC, because remember, you can have an implied name of just the business.
Yeah, that's good.
But that is really it. My personal Instagram, Gabby can put. But yeah, this was amazing. I appreciate you so much. All of your insight, your intelligence. Like I said, you are beyond your years, Gabriella. But yeah, many, many more to come with you and I with our crucial conversations.
Yay! I love you so much, sister. Thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next time on Crucial Conversations.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Crucial Conversations. I hope that you were inspired by this talk and reminded that you are capable of anything you have the capacity to imagine. Share this episode with someone that you want to help unlock their maximum potential. Because sometimes in order to find the answers, you have to know how to ask the questions. And that is what we do on this podcast. I love you all, and I will see you next time on Crucial Conversations.